All right, it's begun. This is the beginning. I'm Heather Carlisle, and this is my live Q&A broadcast from my home office in Plano, Texas. It's January the 10th, 2012, and welcome to my broadcast and the first one for the year 2012, which is why tonight I wanted us to begin to think about dreams. Dreams that you used to have that maybe you forgot, dreams maybe that you thought weren't realistic or good enough, or maybe you weren't good enough. And so, beginning the year, starting off, it's important, I think, that we all take advantage of that energy of new beginnings. Now, I am looking at my titles here, and I am not seeing, there's my chat. So this is live, and that means that you can type me anything you want to, and I can see it. I don't know who you are, and none of the other viewers will know who you are either. And so you can ask me anything you want. This is your opportunity. You're talking to a marriage counselor and a therapist. Any question you want to ask, I'm up for it. So thank you so much. I have viewers, and I'm thrilled that you've tuned in tonight. Thank you. So tonight, thinking about the new year and starting out dreams, because next week I want to talk about my passion locator, the work that I've done helping people answer that question different times in our lives. I'm not happy with where I am, but I don't know what to do. Or what do I do instead? And that perennial question that we hear so often, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, or who do you want to be when you grow up? My experience is that it changes. And that's the wonder of it, because as we mature, as we become developed in different areas of who we are, new talents are developed, new sense of self-mastery, new interests. And then there are, okay, been there, done that, and what's my next thing? Well, for a while, maybe I don't know. And that means change and the process of change. It means sometimes losing an old identity and finding a new one, and finding a new one often takes quite a bit of time. It's almost like building another set of perceptions and interests and a sense of self. So I am going to type in here, hello. Hello and welcome. And that's me typing, you see there. So if you have a question, don't hesitate. Just put it in there anytime. I'll get to it in the middle of me communicating. So I hope you didn't have any problems downloading your handout for this evening. And it looks like this. It's a page that has a series of questions that help us identify or awaken a sense of our old dreams or our secret dreams. Sometimes the ones that are closest to our heart and soul, the closest to who we really think we are ones that we don't talk about or don't share with anyone. Sometimes that's because they're so precious to us or so important in certain ways that we don't want to admit it to ourselves. We don't want to have it besmirched or made fun of by anyone around us. And then we just kind of maybe put them aside or try to forget about them or say not yet. I'm wondering if you've had any of those. So tonight it's reawakening your long-held secret dreams. And the beginning of that, of course, is looking back, because the seeds were planted for your secret dreams, the things that you love most, along the journey of your life. It depends on how old you are, how many stages of life you've been through, and how many possibilities, interests, hobbies, dreams that have been quickened or seeded or awakened in you. So if we go all the way back to the beginning, now we can go back just to the previous step and to the next step, but let's go all the way back and get a little nostalgic. Here we are starting off the new year and thinking about new beginnings and the beginnings of your life. So if you think way back to your childhood, before you were 12 years old, and sometimes the seeds of our secret dreams are planted then. My experience is oftentimes they're planted even before we're 6 years old or 10 years old. And sometimes we don't remember them until something reminds us or it comes to us again. I'll never forget the moment of joy I had in first grade when we were doing a little variety show, just like an elementary school would. And we, as the little girls, were to wear white tops. And then the moms were to just cut out this little circle skirt out of red felt. And so then these little red circle skirts went on, and our teacher taught us a couple of simple little dances. I'll never forget the thrill of that little red felt circle skirt. It was the beginning of learning about dance, learning about the joy of playful dance. I'd never danced before. But then I saw my parents dance in the little schoolhouse, the one-room schoolhouse we had in our farming community. Then the thrill came up again when at 13 years old, my mom and dad took me square dancing. It was pure, all grins, smiling delight for me. So one of the things that has reappeared in my life since I got married to Jack is we do Argentine tango together. And it's my very favorite couple activity in the world to do with him. So the seeds of that secret dream of being a dancer were planted way back there when I was 6 years old. And they appear in my life now in dance in a far different way, and yet it's still the same gleeful thrill that I had when I was 6 years old. So I'm wondering, do you have memories back that far where it may have been just a simple little thing like me and my little red felt circle skirt? And yet something big happened in me. I'll never forget that moment. The joy inside, it transcended other experiences. So did you have moments of joy when you were very little? Something, another one that I remember, I thought my mother was quite brilliant because she would make toast and then she would cut it into little fingers, and then she would put a hard-boiled egg in an egg cup and cut the top off so that you could dip the fingers of toast in that still somewhat liquid yellow center of the egg yolk. Well, for a little girl to have her boiled egg with her toast fingers, to be able to dip that in herself and eat it, the thrill of doing that and the wonder of the meldings of the taste of buttered toast and egg yolk, I'll never forget. It was like something exploded inside me that says, "Oh, this is wonderful." It's a little simple moment for probably a 4 or 5-year-old girl, and yet it was a thrill. It was one of those, one of those peak experiences, even though it was a simple little thing. And it's, of course, carried through my life, for I love cooking. I love melding flavors. I love putting different things together. Some people like just the pure thing. I like putting together tastes to make new ones. And it started before I was 6 years old. So, birth to 12, what was it that was happy for you then? What was it? It could have been something very small, and yet it was the beginning. It was the little seed planted in you, in your brain, in your perceptions, in your sense of values in the world. So, if you have any memories, I would love you to type them for me because I'm curious. I'm curious because always those seeds are held, especially when they're that young, and then they reappear through the lifetime if we give them enough attention. So if you have one, please share it. Something that was a childhood happiness. So that was between birth and 12. Then we have 5 sections I want to ask you to consider tonight in terms of finding those long-held secret dreams. The second one is adolescence. Now, adolescence, we have now awakened most of the building blocks of life in ourselves. Sometimes we're kind of full of ourselves, sometimes doubtful, and you know adolescence is all over the map. But this one, between 13 and 25, adolescence really truly lasts that long. At least that's what research now shows us. So adolescence is that time when we're finding ourselves, when we're developing identity, finding a sense of where we belong in the world, where we attach, a sense of emotional and communicative interaction with others, learning to have our own self-discipline or restraint, or making plans, and a sense of philosophical thinking, finding our way of our own character and integrity. All of those things are being stimulated in adolescence. And of course, they are stimulated best by experiences, not by being told, but by doing things, experimenting with things, meeting people, interacting with people, going on adventures that are appropriate for teenagers. And you and I know that many of us did adventures that were not appropriate for teenagers, which just says that that's what we had around us. So then, what long-held secret dreams did you have during those years of developing your sense of identity? Yes, you pulled through the things from adolescence, from childhood into adolescence. And yet, there's more stimulation, more scenarios, situations, personalities, interactions. So what was it that was awakened in you when you were a teenager? And this often comes with the extracurricular activities, often comes with the mature role models, the men and the women in your life, whether they were teachers, parents, neighbors, leaders in different community organizations or churches, religious affiliations. The people there and how they treated you and how you interacted with them oftentimes awaken a secret dream, where maybe you saw people in sports, in performing arts, in artisans with their skills, competitions, travel, the topics that you covered in school, the adults that were excited about topics, and the adults that were somebody you didn't want to be around at all. Both of those things awaken secret dreams. Notice that both the positive and the negative, the difficult, help us decide what it is that we like. So if it's a negative and we like it, we'll push against it and say, well, maybe you don't like it, but I sure do. Or a positive where it's like, oh, that person, they're enjoying it so much, I wish I could too, or can I start that as well? Or travel of some sort. So If you've got something that you experienced in adolescence that quickened you or awakened you or started a dream unfolding, or a dream that maybe you weren't ready for, or maybe somebody discouraged you or disappointed you, or maybe um, you were distracted by something else in life. So, what was it for you in your adolescence? I remember hearing someone tell a story about going on a trip to help out people in a third world country in Central America, and how that they were in a situation to help out in a way that they hadn't imagined before. Teaching little kids something simple in their school. Now, this person, he was a young man. He'd never taught little kids before, let alone in another little kids that had another language in a third world country. But it awakened something in him about working with children, and about his ability to gather people together and to make something meaningful happen. He'd never been in leadership before. He'd always been quiet and solitary. So that awakened a dream in him of connecting with people. He went on to become very creative with that secret dream that he held, that was awakened, or the seed or the acorn was planted in that experience when he was in adolescence, a teenager. Oh, somebody says, hey, I'm in. Yay. Welcome, dear. Adolescence is a place where many, many things start. They may not grow or develop, but they do begin. So do you have some things, and do you have your handout where you can write these little notes down? This handout is a way to kind of gather the seeds and the possibilities. You may unfold them into something, and you may not. I like to think of having a little basket to put things in, so that then you're free to consider others. Which reminds me, I want to show you something. Here it is. This is my basket. It's the one that I have, that I carry in my purse right now. And it's got various things in it. And little notes, if you see, just random things. It's my, what Jack calls, capture tool, where we capture good ideas or thoughts or words or bits of information. And I'm thinking about this sheet, your handout for tonight, as a kind of capture tool. Because if you capture your idea and write it down, it leaves your conscious brain open and waiting for new and more information. So you capture one piece, go to the next. And then there may be a pattern, or this may lead into a long-held secret dream that actually isn't articulated here, but the stimulus or the doorway is introduced here. So ask me any question, type me anything you'd like. Someone has just made a comment, and thank you so much. I totally agree. And once captured, those ideas can percolate. Well said, exactly how I see it. However you spell it. Thank you. So then, that's 13 to 25. Adolescence really does last that long, because it is the development of identity. Then the next one, and this is the third one I'm going to ask you to think about this evening, is young adulthood adventures. Because after 25, you're a young adult, and now you can go on your own adventures by yourself safely, pretty safely. So 26 to 30. 26 to 30, somebody sent me a text. 26 to 30, you're old enough to go on real adventures. Now, many of us do go on real adventures. My dream was always to travel, and I did it. I traveled on many adventures. And then between 30 and 40, I went on many other adventures too, literally traveling to other places in the world. That's my preference. That's what I want you to have. That's what I want our people to have. Before they're 35, I want people to travel. I want them to experience people on the planet in other countries, other cultures, other languages, because those adventures quicken us and awaken us like none other. So if I were to share an adventure from those years that I had, I was living in England, visited Spain and France and the Balearic Islands. I developed a new sensitivity to architecture, and that means large buildings, museums, cathedrals, um, the those beautiful arches, that the Art Nouveau arches that are at the beginning of some of the underground stations in Paris, began a lifelong passion in me for Art Nouveau. And it's one of those secret dreams. Well, here I am in my 60s, and I now have um, quite a collection of Art Nouveau, and I have plans for doing some original works myself after that style. So one of my dreams always was to be an artist. Back in middle school, it began. And then as a young adult, traveling, seeing art in museums, seeing architecture in buildings, different places in the world, awakened that secret dream in me that I always wanted to be able to be a painter, an artist. I thought I was born too late, I completely missed the Impressionist period and all those Art Nouveau um, hip things or cool things, however they talked about them in those days. And yet it wasn't. It was just an awakening and a bonding that I had through an adventure with something that has echoed on through my life. Someone has expressed themselves. Let me see what we have. I feel like I have spent a lifetime trying to realize long-held dreams. Ah, yes, I used to view all buildings as just buildings, buildings as beauty, the pursuit of beauty in all things. It is that human appreciation which spills into everything, isn't it? What a beautiful poetic thought. Now, one of the things that I want to remind you, it may feel like in certain ways from a certain part of you, and I'm going to ask you to make friends with that part and then look at another part, that you've been trying to realize long-held dreams. And I would suggest that if you feel like you've only been trying and yet not achieved those dreams, then it hasn't quite been time. You haven't been ready to realize that dream at the highest level yet. Which doesn't mean that the dream is not going to come true. So if I were to go back to my little example of dance, I always longed for a partner. Well, I never had a dance partner until I was in my 50s. I held it through, 30, 40 years of hoping that I would have a dance partner someday. And what do you know? It's one of the most marvelous, beautiful things that Jack and I do together. And you know what? Once we were dancing in a club and somebody tipped us for dancing. So now I get to live that dream fully and delight in it completely. It took time. So remember that long-held secret dream, I think oftentimes it reappears different times in our lives in a different way, in a deeper way, more meaningful way, more intense way, more adult way. So I'd like you to change the word trying to I have been holding that dream and living that dream in whatever way I can at different stages of my life, knowing that there's always more. And that's the wonder of long-held secret dreams. In a certain way, it's so meaningful to us and so personal to us that there is always more. Does that make sense? Is that a little heartening? Because between 26 and 30, we're only just starting the first adulthood. And that means that we have certain capacities for perception as well as for living that dream. And we've only just begun. Our culture sometimes forgets to teach us the fullness of life after 30, after 40, after 50, although that's the new way of this generation at least. So, have I covered that part between 26 adequately? Those are times for adventures. We're usually earning a little money, we're physically mature, we've got pretty good sense of how to keep ourselves safe, of how to make good decisions and not get trapped or seduced into something that derails us pretty badly. So those adventures are pretty rich, dimensioned. And yet, then there is the next stage. So we go then to the first adulthood, which is 30 to 40. A decade there that is fecund or fruitful or potent, because those are the years usually when we have kids. Those are the years when we're really cranking into finding a job, a craft, a career, a profession. We're working on mastery, we're working on maybe further higher education, moving up in whatever field that has come to us, or a new field. So those are, in developmental psychology, we think of those as generative years, where we're generating, creating. So that's why I put the first adulthood. What was it that awakened your long-held secret dreams that have to do with creativity and recreation? Because now you're working and you want to take time from your work out into play for recreation, rest, vacation, kicking back. And we all know people that don't know much how to do that, and they kind of stay within that adolescent role of self-stimulation with just staying home with TV, with partying, things like that. Or is your recreation going to the museum, or traveling to the beach, or learning to play polo at a higher level, or joining a tennis club, getting better at your golf game, something that's recreational? And then, of course, oftentimes there's that huge world of walking in, holding your children's hands, where the creativity and the recreation often involves the complexities, the joys, the inspiration, the concerns of being parents, or of being neighbors, or uncles and aunts, of wanting to be a good role model for the kids, wanting to take the kids into a world. And of course, the best way to take your boy into Boy Scouts is to be a scout leader. The best way to take your daughter into the world of art is to be a painter yourself. So your creativity and your recreation between 30 and 40, what long-held secret dream was there? Now, sometimes we don't actually do it. And I know that you and I have both seen people who, quote unquote, sacrifice their recreation, their fun, their creativity by putting their children first. I want to remind us that one of the most powerful influences we have in the world is by taking our long-held secret dreams and living them. Living them at the adult level, not the teenage or adolescent level, but the adult level, which is past where the kids and the teenagers can go. And then they get inspired. You know about that. Did you have a role model when you were young? Maybe it was, unfortunately, someone famous. I like, rather than movie stars or athletes or whatever it is that's in the media, I'd rather have a real role model, a real person. Sometimes it's a person of history, but rather than somebody acting them out or just in competition, to be living something of deeply good meaning. Did you have one or more of those? Most of us did. Um, any comments from my viewers? I love to it's a thrill when you guys type something, actually. I know you're there, but I like to know that this is being valuable and interesting, and I also want to know how it can be more valuable to you. That's my goal. So, creativity and recreation. Is your long-held secret dream kind of put on the shelf during that time because you're putting somebody else first? When I want to remind you that for us to live those in those years is not only good for the people around us to whom we are role models, but it's good for us because we get going then and it builds later. And then the last period, which is a big long one, and we could talk for forever about this one, and I probably will at some point. The second adulthood, service and hobbies, which is 40 to the present. And I think for me, it was 40 to about 50, and then something shifted when I turned 50. And that's a whole nother world. Actually, by the time I turned 61 last year, something shifted hugely in me and kind of took the obstacles away in a fashion I couldn't have predicted and that has been quite thrilling. So, what services and hobbies? Because once we get into the second adulthood, we're now giving back, usually. We're now pursuing hobbies at another level. And my favorite Christmas present, for the last couple of years, I've gotten this and then this, is an engraving tool with, the goggles and the kind of thing that you use in your hands, because I'm setting up to do some artwork with engraving and engraving jewelry and shells and things like that. So I've always thought about sculpture, but then it's come down to being creative with engraving tools and power tools and things like that. It started out way back when I was in my 30s and I was a technician for an engineer. I loved doing it because it was interesting, but after a while it's like, I really don't want to be in the engineering world. I like to use these talents creatively. Well, here they come. I learned to wield small power tools back in my 30s, and here I am in my 60s. That was a long-held dream, that I could use power tools for creativity, for art, for fun. Here it is. It's popped up again. A kind of a secret dream that never really came to the surface and just came alive. So the quickening, the reawakening of your long-held secret dreams. Have you had any of those things happen in your life? And I'm curious, do you have a dream where you don't think that it can evolve into anything? Where you feel like, well, that's nice, but it's not practical. Or, well, that's cool, but there's nothing I can do with that. It's just an interest that I have. I'd like to hear from my viewers. Have you had a long-held secret dream that kind of didn't make sense or didn't seem to fit? Or like the person who said, I feel like I've spent a lifetime trying to realize long-held dreams. Well, that person, I would love it if you would share with us one of those long-held dreams that you've been trying to realize. And if I can, give you a little mentoring with that to kind of expand it, or maybe get an idea for a new doorway or a new way of taking that forward. So share with us, if you would, one of those things you've been trying to realize. Now, you know, one of the dreams that people oftentimes want to realize is that they have a relationship or a spouse or a life together with an intimate partner. And that is a long held dream that sometimes it's not time for it. Maybe it's awakened when we meet somebody in school, uh, like that puppy love moment when you were in middle school or junior high or maybe high school, but it never really worked out for you. So a long held dream that never really was realized. And it's interesting to me working with people that those long held dreams, sometimes it's like a seed, or sometimes I think it's like, and this is an old metaphor, I realize, priming the pump. Do you know what priming the pump is? When I grew up on a farm, we had a well, we had well water, and there was a pump, you know, one of those things where the handle goes up and down and you pump the water out of the well. And so the pump doesn't create a vacuum and doesn't pull up water unless you prime it sometimes, which means you've got to pour water into, there's a top receptacle in the pump where you pour some water in, and then it can grab suction and bring water out of the well. So sometimes we need to put something in to quicken it and to prime it so that that which is buried inside or planted deeply can come to the surface and begin to sprout or flower. Thoughts about that? Any of my viewers have a question about that? Priming the pump. Sometimes there's something that we need to do and we think, well, I don't deserve that, or I don't have the time, or I don't have the resources for that. Someone says yes. So yes what, please? Give me some more specifics. That it's like the fish that needs to be revved up to swim. I like that metaphor. The fish that needs to be revved up to swim. Yes. And so then the revving up that takes us in some direction, or takes us closer to the surface, or takes us deeply into what the truth is that we might be afraid of looking at, because if we did look at it, we might have to make changes. And that's sometimes one of the reasons that it's a long-held secret dream. Because in order to awaken that dream and live it, and as that person said, realize it, changes would need to be made. Blocks need to be pushed aside or dissolved or moved past. So sometimes this person says, sometimes a person needs confidence. Other people can be primed by encouragement. Confidence, yes. Encouragement, indeed. And sometimes if it's a secret dream, it's hard for those of us around someone like you to encourage you unless you're in a position where you can start talking about that dream or expressing what it might be. Encouragement can prime a person. Isn't that true? Isn't that very true? Even recently, one of the biggest primings I've ever had in my life happened because I was doing a presentation for my colleagues for continuing education. And they had such fun, and they were so excited about my materials and using them and talking about how they could use them and they needed them. It was such an encouragement to me that I went ahead and finished 2 other handbooks for them, because I saw that I knew that it was working for me and that I thought it was valuable. And yet when other people used it and found value in it, it was it blew away all of my reservations about putting energy into something like that now, and then awakened deeper levels of faith, creativity, excitement about finishing some creative projects. So I got encouragement from my colleagues, and it was definitely priming my pump for finishing some handbooks. Sometimes a person needs confidence, and confidence comes under the role, the headline, I would say, of self-esteem. And you know, we bandy about the word self-esteem, and yet, what does it really mean? If you read the wonderful author on self-esteem, um, with the 6 pillars of self-esteem, Nathaniel Branden, wonderful, wonderful book. It's very specific, those things which we need in order to develop strong self-esteem or strong self-confidence. And one of the things is to try things out. Try things out that are suited to us in this time and in this way. And to go ahead and do it and to experience how interesting it is to be yourself doing that. And then what a thrill it is to do it and see the fruits of your labors. And then it mirrors to you, I can do this. I am good at this. And there is your self-confidence automatically right there. We have another, the Rand devotee. Yes, definitely. He was a Rand devotee. And his works on self-esteem, his books on self-esteem, I think are still the best that I've found. There may be better ones, but Nathaniel Branden was deeply devoted to learning about and writing about the development of self-esteem. Nathaniel Branden, yes, Ayn Rand, exactly. You've been doing some of the same reading I have. And that's a dependable source that goes deep or deeply and thoroughly if what you think that would be good for you is better self-confidence. By doing it, and that's the information that can help you get very clear on specific things that you might do for yourself to solidify your self-confidence and to finalize anything in your past that was a deterrent to your self-confidence. Because sometimes we have retained some things and haven't quite healed them or matured them. And that's because it hasn't been time, I think. When it's time, we in this country at least, the tools are quite available for us to move through that maturing or healing process. So yes, confidence and encouragement. Interestingly enough, how we can get confidence from the outside and we can get encouragement from the outside. And confidence and encouragement can always come from the inside any day we decide that we're going to do that for ourselves. And I think sometimes there are certain personalities who look outside of themselves for encouragement, confidence, advice, proof that their ideas are the best or accurate, and forget about that we can do this for ourselves at any point. Now, there are techniques, there are things to do that help us be successful at that, but that, you know, for me, the best way I can create my confidence is by deciding myself to do things that I know will build my confidence. Sorry, life is sometimes brutal. Yes, it is. And when life is brutal, I think that it can be the greatest motivator, the greatest teacher, the greatest expander that we might encounter. because, there's that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, if it is broke, then we pay attention, hopefully sincere attention to it, and work at figuring out how to solve the problem or how to fix the problem, whatever it is. And thereby, we develop a new um, ability, a new piece of knowledge or information, a new experience of walking through something we've never done before to resolve it or put it behind us or move over an obstacle or reshape it so that it's of benefit rather than brutality, so to speak. Back to being positive. Positive really and truly um, can be, as I just did, reframing the brutal or the hardships to see how they can benefit our lives, sometimes even more than the happy positive experiences, because of how they inspire us and therefore inspire us, again for tonight's topic, to reawaken our long-held secret dreams. It makes me think about people who experience a serious illness, that kind of brutal experience. And what is it that happens to us when we experience something that is that life-threatening or that life-changing? Oftentimes, we are pulled back and forced to really look at what we're doing and who we've become and what our community has become, who we hang out with, where we're going with our job or our creativity or our families or our relationships. And it gifts us with a reawakening of our long-held secret dreams. Because in a day-to-day world, we do this, we get on that track, we're responsible for such and so, and then when something brings us up short, we're saying, wait a minute, what is really important? What is meaningful? What is deeply meaningful to me? I forgot for a while. And sometimes it's for really good reasons. Sometimes it's because we just don't want to go there. Sometimes it's because we just don't have the time or the resources to pursue whatever that long-held secret dream is. But the brutality can be a positive kind of kick in the butt that says, wait a minute, I've waited way too long. I've always wanted to learn how to play the piano. I'm not going to have anything get in my way right now. I'm going to start. Or wait a minute, it's been way too long. I've known that I need to get fit. I know that I need to learn to be athletic. I know that I need to take the time to go and find out how exercise fits in my life, and I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to fulfill the long-held secret dream to be fit and healthy and vibrant. So I'm wondering, do you have, my dear viewers, do you have, since we've been working on this for about 50 minutes now, I'd like to hear your long-held secret dreams. I know you've got one or two or maybe more, but I want to hear, it would be inspiring to me, of what it is that you've been kind of holding close and thinking, well, it's not reasonable. Well, I don't have the time, money, or talent. Well, I need to put this first. Or whatever it is that has been a logical and wise decision where you kind of just put that long-held dream into a little secret place. You may have encountered the idea that some people use of an image board or a visual goal setting, make a poster with pictures on it of what you want. Sometimes those are some of your secret dreams. Or you have a treasure box where you put pictures or brochures or little tokens of some sort, and they represent something that's precious to you that's kind of over there, you know? Um, so good. Somebody is typing and saying, okay, I'm with you. How amazingly embarrassing to imagine divulging such a secret. Yes, but you see, I don't know who it is and nobody else watching does either. So you can divulge that, and who knows, it might inspire someone else who has something like that as a secret dream. I guess I have a secret dream that that I've been holding on to, and I hope that in the next few decades I can achieve this secret dream. And it connects a whole lot of things. So I'm gonna type it for you. So I'll officially reveal this secret dream. So exchange student scholarships in the name of my mother, Calla. Whoops. Calla Carlisle. So, this is one of my secret long-held dreams that has not come true yet. I don't have the ability yet to make this happen. And this is one of my secret dreams, that I am able to set up an exchange student scholarship in the name of my mother, Calla Carlisle, because I think that's one of the ways that I could affect someone's life in a profound and meaningful way for the rest of their life, to find deep goodness. So that's one of the long-held secret dreams I've been holding close to my heart. And there's not that it's a secret from anybody else because I don't want anybody to know, but just because there's not been a time when it was time to talk about it. So the red violin. Now, THX1138, what's that? Is that Don't Mess with the Zohan? A movie. Well, I know the red violin is a movie. And THX1138, is that a movie as well? So these are movies. And what is your long-held secret dream? Is it to make a movie, or to the role model in one of these movies, or to develop your own creativity or skill that was inspired by these movies? What is it? What is your part? What is your dream? A few movies which include breaking out. Oh. TXX will blow all people's minds. I'm trying to divulge breakout artistry without divulging. Ah. Breakout artistry. Breakout artistry. That's fascinating. That's fascinating to me. So is breakout artistry a specific pursuit or endeavor? Because I'm not familiar with it, and probably I should be. Some kind of endeavor. So it's artistic, it's creative, and does that mean it's breaking out of a certain mold, or breaking out of your self-imposed limitations, or breaking out of the cultural milieu, the way it's been presented? Okay, let's see. Releasing oneself from bondage, self-imposed and cultural. Oh my dear. Oh my, isn't that wonderful, you all? Isn't that wonderful, dear viewers? Oh my gosh. Releasing oneself from bondage, self-imposed and cultural. And that reminds me of something. Right over there on my filing cabinet, I've got one of those little magnetic messages which says, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses in order to read it because it's so far away over there. It says, if you are going to doubt something, doubt your limits. If you are going to doubt something, doubt your limits, or your, like this person says, the bondage of your limits, your self-imposed and cultural limits. Ha, awesome. We're on the same track, aren't we? Yes, doubt your own limits. So I have that affirmation in front of me just peripherally all the time because I want to doubt my own limits because yes, I'm very clear, as I'm sure that you mean to communicate, that we have the greatest bondages inside because of our self-imposed or the culturally imposed perceptions we have about ourselves and uh, um, um, what's culturally put upon us. So breakout artistry, that's what it is, isn't it? It's that my sign on my filing cabinet. Doubt your limits. Breakout artistry. High five. We just have a few minutes left tonight. And thank you so much for your participation. That's thrilling. I've learned something. Breakout artistry, I'm devoted to that. And I guess that's part of the products that I create and the work that I do, especially under the umbrella of my work called Rewriting Your Future. That is breakout artistry. I want you to break out and rewrite your future. And so this little exercise that I walked us through today, the reawakening of your long-held secret dreams, is part of breakout artistry. And next week, I'll introduce you to more components from my passion locator, because this exercise is from my passion locator. And that's part of my breakout artistry of helping us to consider new things that move us past our old doubts or what the culture told us was appropriate or true for us. I got a phone call today from a client, and she wanted to tell me about certain worries or concerns that she had and wanted to confirm with me what would be best for her to do. And so, in essence, the obstacles that she had that kept her from breaking her bonds, her internal bonds and her behavioral bonds, was the gossip and the criticism and the judgment of some of the people in her life. So those are sometimes the bonds or the doubts that keep us from moving into awakening those long-held secret dreams. She looked at it all and realized that the judgment of some people about her wanting to start a new relationship with someone had nothing to do with whether or not it was good for her and the other person, but it had everything to do with somebody else trying to tell her how to live her life, and that was putting their nose in where it didn't belong and kind of gossipy inappropriateness. So she called me and said, help me, I want to check this out with you. So thank you for tuning in tonight to check it out with me, thinking about reawakening your long-held secret dreams. I hope this has been helpful, and I loved your participation for this evening. So this is my live Q&A broadcast, Tuesday nights. Tonight's is the lead-in to next week. Next Tuesday, I'll be talking about the passion locator and going more deeply into what it is that's meaningful to you, what your long-held secret dreams are, and how to build them into the reality of your life today and in your future. Thank you so much for tuning in with me tonight and keeping me company and inspiring me with this work. I will bid you adieu, and I will see you next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Thank you so much, and good night, dear ones.